Tyres have already done another 10 laps, so they're not going to be as good a condition as Damon Hill's. We can see on the camera lens now, we can see a few spots of rain. The clouds don't look heavy, but the rain could build up relatively quickly, and this could provide another fascinating twist to these final 18 laps now of the British Grand Prix.
Keep your fingers crossed that we do not have a downpour. That would spoil what is going to be a brilliant climax to the British Grand Prix. The leader and the second place man, Schumacher and Hill, within just a few yards of each other. And as Jonathan has said, as we look at them, Schumacher at the top of your screen, Damon Hill on the left, down the Hangar Straight, the fastest part of the course. And this is where traffic could make all the difference. And Schumacher is coming up to somebody. If he is not seen and if he is balked even to the slightest degree, Damon Hill will maximise his opportunity. He looks as though he was closer than he was there because of course Schumacher brakes before Damon Hill does and accelerates earlier. And now the gap remains the same, and it's Parnis in the Ligier in 7th position who they are catching. He's very quick. He's got the Mugen engine, which is very powerful.
But let's not forget David Coulthard's pit stop. That's due to happen in the next lap, and when Coulthard comes out, we need to see if he can get ahead of Alesi, because in the same way that we've got the Hill-Schumacher battle, we've got the Coulthard-Alesi one, and with then Johnny Herbert as well. Coulthard we'll need to see how Coulthard compares to both Herbert and Alesi.
They're on lap 43. Schumacher leads. Hill second, Parnis has gone into the pits, Coulthard is third, Herbert is fourth, Alesi is fifth. Mark Blundell is up to a superb 6th place in the McLaren Mercedes. He's in the points again, the doughty Mark Blundell, who is underestimated as a driver and is doing superbly here as we ride with Hill, chasing race leader Michael Schumacher.
And from the gaps we've got, Coulthard is 24.7 seconds ahead of Johnny Herbert. But this is a late stop for David Coulthard, and in he comes. He won't be stopping too long. My guess, 9 seconds. I think he'll be out right alongside Herbert and ahead of Jean Alesi.
Up go the revs, out goes the Williams. Tyres smoking, burning rubber. And there is Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert ahead of David Coulthard, and Johnny Herbert is going through ahead. There is Jean Alesi, so Herbert is up into 3rd place and Coulthard is up into 4th. Alesi is in 5th position. Fascinating. This is lap 44 out of 61. Between Schumacher and Hill there were 7/10 of a second, and look at it now, look at this, we're with Damon Hill, and that is the German Michael Schumacher ahead, the world champion. Damon Hill fighting for his 2nd successive British Grand Prix victory out of Woodcote, and there's somebody ahead of Michael Schumacher. It is Bouillon, the French driver, and now Damon says, I'm with you, Michael. And he's on new tyres, newer tyres than Michael Schumacher, and they're through the Beckett's, this magnificent complex, and Damon is pushing. Remember what happened in Australia last year when Damon Hill was as close as this to Michael Schumacher. Schumacher got rattled, Schumacher went off, and they're now right up behind the Sauber.
And what was interesting there was that Schumacher, to my mind, deliberately slowed a little on the last part of Beckett's. Hill was falling all over the back of him to make sure that Schumacher got the fast exit from the last part of Beckett's, because he knows that into the right-hander of Beckett's, and where one corner on is the best chance for overtaking, and he wanted to make sure that A, he got by Bouillon, and secondly, that he didn't give Damon Hill the chance to take a run up alongside him.
Was that tit for tat? Because Schumacher was very angry with Damon Hill in the French Grand Prix for giving him, Schumacher, what he said was a brake test as they came up to lap Roberto Moreno. Hill backed off, and Hill closes right up on Schumacher now. Hill backed off, and when you back off in a Formula 1 car, there's no flywheel effect in the engines. It's just as though you put the brakes on, and Schumacher had to do just that in France. So maybe he was looking very closely at Damon Hill.
This is the best battle of any Grand Prix this year. It's Mark Blundell that's now in front of Michael Schumacher, but to have a 2/3 distance, the two arch rivals separated by 1 to 2 seconds is absolutely fantastic. With Damon Hill on his home ground, pumped up as much as any driver ever can be, Michael Schumacher knows too that this is the time when he needs to prove, if he believes it, that he's the best driver, and it's all going to happen in the next 15 laps here at Silverstone.
Down the hangar straight. Schumacher, rightly or wrongly, believes that the British Grand Prix last year was taken away from him unfairly due to that black flag incident. That's a point of view thing as well, but he's going to be just as determined to stay ahead of Damon as Damon is going to be determined to get past him. And it's going to make an enormous difference in World Championship terms, because if Schumacher can stay ahead of Hill and win the British Grand Prix, he will increase his World Championship lead of 11 points by 4 points. If Damon Hill could get past Michael Schumacher and win, it would decrease the gap from 11 points to 7 points. Oh, what's happened? Damon's lost it, has he? Stops! Off! They're both off! Who's that? Is that a Tyrrell or is it? It's Schumacher. They're both off. They're both out. Now you suddenly saw Damon Hill's steering wheel whirl about in his hands. Now whether they collided or not, I do not know. But whatever. Well, hang on. We're going to show you what happened. Schumacher waves his hand in disgust. Now this is it. Here they are. Schumacher on the left. Damon Hill on the right. Damon attacks, goes through on the inside. Contact. Now there's going to be a big argument about that. Damon Hill will say, I was close enough to get through on the inside. Schumacher will say, in no way were you. But the result is, of course, that Johnny Herbert is leading the British Grand Prix.
Well, I think looking at that, Damon Hill was really far too far away. Let's have another look now. This is through the 150 miles an hour bridge corner. Look, he's a long way away from Michael Schumacher. I don't know quite what was going through his mind there, but certainly Schumacher braked relatively early, but Schumacher turns in. Damon really has committed himself in a big way to come up the inside there, and unless Schumacher had some kind of a problem that we don't know about that caused him to brake very early, and he was certainly braking a little bit early. I don't think his handling of his car was that good, but that was, to my mind, far too much of an opportunist manoeuvre, I'm afraid, for Damon Hill there. There were still 14 laps to go of the British Grand Prix, and if there was a time for that kind of do-or-die manoeuvre, it was going to be a lot later on in the race than that. And I really find it, I think probably Damon saw Michael slow and thought he had half a chance and committed himself. Let's have another look there. He comes up the inside, but he's going too quickly. He just cannot stop. He's committing himself too early. That's the way it looked to me. Well, what a pity. But for Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill, as Damon dejectedly walks in, and do I detect from his body language that maybe he felt he was being a bit precipitate, or maybe reading something into his stance? Well, he's fed up. You see he pulls the tube away from his helmet. Just as in 1993 he saw the British Grand Prix slip from his grasp, so it has in 1995. But for Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher, now read Johnny Herbert and David Coulthard, because there is a new Benetton and Williams battle for victory in the British Grand Prix, and you are looking at it. Johnny Herbert leading, the man who so many people, including myself, have tipped as a Grand Prix star of the future for a long time, with the man who is undoubtedly a Grand Prix star of the present, and we're riding with David Coulthard. Some people have said this is going to be David Coulthard's first Grand Prix victory. It's his 16th career race. There are 16 races in the season. Damon almost home, but it means that his World Championship gap to Michael Schumacher has been unchanged. It remains at 11 points, and the Williams team's hopes are now in the capable 24-year-old hands of Scotsman David Coulthard, chasing Johnny Herbert, who will know that it's down to him to get 10 World Championship points for Benetton. Johnny scything his way through the traffic, and Coulthard right in his wheel tracks. And again, if Coulthard had any space to go by, he would have gone by Johnny Herbert then. Now that is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the Sauber driver, ahead of Johnny Herbert there. And these cars, the Benetton of Herbert and the Williams of Coulthard, they both have the same Renault engine. They're the same speed on the straights. Neither of them have got any more pit stops to go. And Coulthard comes to have a look at the inside, just like Damon Hill tried to do.
Exactly the same place, but this time they kept away from each other. And I can tell you this, there are some spots of rain falling on lap 48 of the 61 lap incident-filled British Grand Prix. Over the line to complete the lap and start another one. Herbert leads, Coulthard second. They're coming up to Frentzen, and Coulthard is now effectively 30 seconds behind Johnny Herbert because he has exceeded the 75 mile an hour pit lane speed limit. And that means to say that with Jean Alesi 7.5 seconds behind Coulthard, and therefore the same amount behind Johnny Herbert, Johnny's basically got to keep the car going to come home to win the British Grand Prix. David Coulthard doesn't know about his penalty, and what a pity. He fights, and Johnny Herbert fights back. He doesn't know either, of course. They think they're fighting for the lead. What a pity they're not. What a pity they're not. Oh, Coulthard passes Herbert, who tries to repass and fails. Coulthard stays ahead, but he's going to have to come in, and it's going to be a very downcast Scotsman. The adrenaline must be flowing in bucketful.
But right in your picture, at the back of the picture there, was Jean Alesi, and don't think that just because David Coulthard's going to be out of contention now, that Herbert's going to have it all his own way, because Jean Alesi in the Ferrari is going to be moving up to second place. He's only 7.5 seconds behind, and when Jean Alesi gets any kind of scent of a win here again, he's going to be charging that Ferrari around with such panache that it should make great viewing from our side. So Coulthard may not come in this lap because he may not have got the message yet. We shall have to watch at the pit board. We'll have a look at that. He'll be getting the radio message. He won't believe it. He really won't believe it. He hasn't had an in sign then. It'll be coming through his radio, if indeed he's getting it at all. I'm sure that between Coulthard and the Williams team, they will be professional enough to make sure that he does come in. But Herbert will have been told, I'm sure, Herbert will have been told, look, don't worry about David, he's got to come in, he's going to be losing 30 seconds. But on the other hand, Herbert's still got Jean Alesi, who's now only 6 seconds behind. Alesi took 1.5 seconds off that battling duo, and that was probably because they were doing exactly that, battling between them.
Race order, lap 50, 61 lap race. Coulthard is leading, but has got to come in for a 10-second penalty. Johnny Herbert, the second of the two cars you're looking at, will therefore take the lead. There is a decreasing gap between Herbert's Benetton there and Jean Alesi's Scarlet Ferrari in third place. Well, what can one say for Damon that he hasn't already said to himself many times over? And what can one? And now look back when you can, and you will see Alesi. Coulthard now, is he going to come in this lap? This is the 50th lap, and he's coming. Priory, Brooklands, now the last two corners, the last three, Luffield 1, Luffield 2 and Woodcote. Now, there is Jean Alesi. Well, what's happening to David Coulthard? If he doesn't come in on the next lap, he's going to be in big trouble. We've been told there's a penalty. His team must have been told there's a penalty. And now he's been told. And he won't be able to believe his eyes and his hard luck. Having fought his way past Johnny Herbert magnificently into the lead, which he's now extending because he's 1.5 seconds ahead of Herbert, he's going to have to suffer the indignity of coming in. And now, why is he going to have to come in? Answer, because he exceeded the pit lane speed limit. Why did he exceed the limit? Either because he failed to operate the limiting device, which they do on entering the pit lane, or because it didn't operate properly. I don't know which it is.